It is Friday, June 14, 7:37 a.m. Here are the levels. There's a zone here I'm going to explain in a little bit where that came from. And since it's Friday, the end of the week, let's take a look at the weekly chart. I want to talk about the development of some of these levels. Not that you can tell a whole lot about the levels in the short term when you look at a weekly chart, but just to point out that they're still very strong above all the moving averages. They came down lower currently in the pre-market at 7:39 a.m. They're at 5:40.44. So where's that? 5:40. There we go, somewhere in this neighborhood. And they came down a little farther before, but that's still very strong. There's no reason they can't go any higher, but just to be aware of, they're on very low volume, which means professionals have not come in. There's no profit taking thus far. On the daily chart, they're still, what I would say, maintaining their composure after they've gapped up because while they spiked the low of this area, they haven't gotten down too much. So let's just pay attention to the low. We're going to use this in a minute. So, they're back up above this low. They're still kind of within this range. And it becomes more apparent when you look at a shorter time frame, like an hourly chart, that there's just a consolidation going on here. The question is it still a bullish consolidation? Here, they came up short of the 20-period moving average, and you can say this, they gapped up. There's a breakup candle. They kind of dripped down, and you expect some kind of reaction to the low of this, and they did, but they've kind of broken this a little bit because they closed hourly candles below the low of this. But they're back above it because here it becomes more apparent that this is just really a bullish consolidation. But don't forget, this is where they gap. So really, when you look at the aftermarket hours, or even just visualize it now, price went from here all the way up and has been kind of consolidating here, kind of a bullish, kind of a flag kind of pattern here. They could come all the way down here and test the lows of this breakout area and still be bullish. So why don't we just turn on the 24-hour session? So here we go. So this is the low. So they came down. Maybe before I do that, this will be interesting. So regular session, and over on our levels for the day, we have a couple. But before I put level on, I'm going to snap to the low of the last few days. So horizontal line right here. This happens to be 539.59. And we have a number today, one of our calculated levels at 540.23. Okay, so yeah, here's where they were yesterday, but turn on the 24-hour session again. And what do they do today? So far, this morning, as of 7:43, they've come down. Of course, there was a 200-period moving average that they bounced off of, but they came down, tested the lows, and they're kind of in this zone here between the low and the level that we had on the morning. So, if they come up higher and want to go higher, then this serves as a zone really from either direction. And down here at the low of this, we have levels that aren't just simply because it's the low of this zone here. It's because it's formula derived, came out of the calculator. So now you can see why that's there. One of the reasons why that's there. And there's plenty of levels really above and below. These are just sort of the most relevant for today, considering at this time of day, they're at 540.46, somewhere in this neighborhood, and they've dripped lower, as you've seen. So they're right in the middle of here. They could go either direction. Whatever happens, I will share with you my trades if I take any, and what happened, and we'll talk about how the week ended at that time. Thanks, and see you then. It's almost 5:30, and it was implied this morning that it was likely the spiders would move up. They did slightly. Closed relatively strong. They're still kind of within the range of the previous day. Maybe we can look at a daily chart. But where do they come down to before they went up? They came down into this zone. There is no recording of the trades. I kind of had an impromptu meeting. When I'm at work, I typically have two separate laptops, and I just look at my analytical charts on one and I trade on the other. But since I just had one, I had actually a presentation on my work computer. So anyway, long story short, the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm back and forth between this trading screen, well, this one with the E-minis, you know how I have the two charts next to each other. And I'm going back and forth between these and all the other time frames and other tools that I use for analysis, and it really made for a pretty sloppy recording. So nothing to really show you there, but we can at least kind of just get in a little closer to show you what happened. I'll just tell you what happened. So let me adjust the levels here. So 541.70 operating level, 5-cent buffer. I didn't adjust this zone here anywhere in between. So they got up close. So after 945, they got up close before, but after 945, they were down here. So they got up within 10 cents of this and pulled back. So I kind of was hesitant. I want them to give me more time for another trade, and they did over here, but still it was close here. There's a close call or a near miss here. They came up to within 5 pennies here, pulled back. So I did not take the trade. I mean, you could have. This level is obviously very important. I did not take a short trade here, but in the meantime, I had 2 orders down here. Got the first one near the top of this, and I had another one down here they never got to. So basically just bought 2 and rode that up pretty quickly. Just a simple base hit for 2 contracts. And yes, you could have had this. I'm not going to count this as a quote unquote play in by the rules because really this was kind of a near miss scenario. And it just doesn't make you feel right when they come up short and can't get through it. For all we know at this point, they're going to build up enough steam to just power through and go all the way higher. And as I implied this morning in the video that I made for the post for the pre-market and also the email that was sent out, that I just keep wondering if there's a destination higher. And at some point, the long term could look like they're just going to go up to maybe 550 or something. Not a prediction. Don't quote me on this. I'm just saying there's nothing bearish about all the charts at this point. So anyway, one trade for me down here, and really that would be what you would take according to the rules. But I just want you to look at these levels and just tell yourself or ask yourself, how these levels that were put on the chart, provided this morning via email and recorded at before 8 o'clock. When the spiders got to them during the day, they worked. I mean, they were respected. So there's something to this, you might have to admit. So fairly straightforward. The first trade would have been when they got into the zone, and you would have at least got one of the levels. That's just treating this by the rules. Each level independently, and say buying at each of those levels. I bought in the middle. I was kind of lucky to get it. I had another, like I said, order lower that they did not get to, but 2 contracts at close to this level got me 4 points. And the other level up at 541.75. They got up close several times and pulled back each time they did that, given the indication that that was the trade. And so I didn't trust anymore. It worked. I mean, that level was important. I shouldn't say it worked. Don't misunderstand me. The level was important, but the trade, per the rules, didn't exist, but it could have worked if you'd taken the level. I'm not advocating you do, because I like to play by the rules, just because I've seen more often than not, when you have that kind of behavior, it's a tell that they're going to power through and then go higher. In this case, it was just they bounced between the levels. Anyway, I did the same thing, just got the base hit at that one level at the top of the zone. So we'll see what next week brings. Interesting week because, like I said, it's the close of, or the expiration of, the current contract, and things can happen, but the end of the month, end of the quarter, really is the important area and time that we want to be looking out for. So we'll come back next week and do this all over again. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. Have a great weekend. See you next week.